This conference will now be recorded.
We still have quite a few people with their cameras on. We're down to 3. One's a Mike Wilson, David Linus, and one says waiting for name, so I don't know who that is.
Did you get me?
Yep.
I don't know what's up with my GoToMeeting app, but it won't work.
You want to start, Mike?
Well, I'm on a meeting, so he's going to have to do something else.
Hi, this is Bob Sedlak. I'm a couple minutes late. I'm sorry.
Hello?
Hello, this is Ed Johnson.
Yes, this is Harold Twining.
This is Bob Sedlak.
It's going to be a few minutes. Mike has a problem with his audio.
Okay, that's what I was wondering what was going on. So just be patient.
Yep. I'll get back with you.
Okay. Thank you. I'll hang up.
Do you show down at the bottom?
I'm all right. I flipped out. I hit the mic. Now I got it on. Now I got to try and figure out how to get back in here.
Okay, yeah, I can hear you.
I don't know how that got muted.
We can hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep, Mike, I can hear you, buddy.
Okay. I guess we'll try and get started now. Hopefully we got all the details worked out here. Want to thank everybody for signing in. We had over 150 people sign up today. I feel pretty honored about that. I want to start off by saying that I'm not sure a lot of people totally understand what all it takes to put one of these together. You got to have some very knowledgeable friends to help you. You don't do it by yourself. And I want to thank all them people that helped me. The first thing you got to do is come up with your topic and then get your content you want to bring up and research it to try and give the best information you can. And you need to come up with pictures to highlight what you want to show. And I'm fortunate in that area that I got a best friend that's got a very good car collection that I've got access to anytime I want to go there and study the cars or get pictures. And after you get all that done, you got to kind of put it together and try and make things run smooth, which we haven't done so far today. But in the past, I've had Nick Petruzzi help me, and Nick's knowledge and skills with the computer has made these a lot easier than what they could have been. And I just want to thank Nick because he stepped down from his position, and I want to make sure he gets the recognition he deserves. So thank you, Nick, for all you've done me in the past. And if we do more of these in the future, it'll be through Indiana, where I can try and get more technical assistance to help me.
Mute our phones.
What's
Waiting for control 129. Listen, somebody.
I'm not sure what's going on right now, but
Everybody mute your phones.
we've got an issue out there somewhere, folks.
Somebody has both their phone and microphone live for that feedback. Mike, this is Nick. I appreciate the kind words. It was great working with you, and I certainly learned quite a bit from you.
Thanks, Nick. Okay, hopefully we got things straightened out here, so we'll try and get started here now with the hoods. 53, kind of a flat, smooth top on them. They were contoured a little bit to meet the body lines. The back side of the hoods had some bracing on it. It was an X-brace type reinforcement underneath the hoods. In early 54, they changed and made the pads molded right into the hoods. And this particular hood is a reproduction because you can tell with the press fiberglass, it's not the matte laid up type fiberglass, which we'll show you here in a little bit. But in 53 to early 54, the pad was added on with a screw, as you can see there.
Mike, you want to back up on that?
Back up?
Yep. Do you want me to jump in?
Yeah, go ahead.
So your 53 hoods all had a screw-on, we call it a puck. And the puck was made out of resin, and the puck was screwed to the bottom of the hood, as you can see in the far left picture. It was either held on with a pan head screw, which is self-tapping, or it was a clutch head screw. But the reason for that is for the pop-up spring. So that puck was added to the spring, added to the hood prior to blackout, and that whole thing would be blacked out. As Mike said, on the right-hand hood, they redesigned the X part of the hood. The hoods are two-piece, so there's an outer skin and inner skin. The inner skin you can see on the right-hand picture, where they molded in the puck part of it into the hood skin, or into the hood reinforcement.
Okay, Chris, here you go. All
right, so a lot of people always say there was no steel Corvettes. Well, this is car number 56 in 1953. We call it the bowling ball car. They were testing bowling balls to see if they would dent fiberglass versus steel. This is car number 56. It has a steel hood on it. You can see the magnet standing on the hood. And then the next photo, this Mike's got it. This is the X brace underneath, and you can see it's made out of steel. And you can see where the hood bolts, hinges bolt to the bottom of the hood. So there was one steel hood made.
Okay, the weather stripping across the back, original ones had white cords through them. And they also had this logo located at least every 9.5 inches. There you can see the puck added to a 53 with the blackout on it. You can see the pop-up spring right here that goes against that puck.
It's a very common injury. And what, the question is did they sedate your dog and feel the need for a cruciate rupture? I'm guessing no.
No. The first time I brought them, they tried it.
Yeah.
They said the next time she was a little bit better, but they still couldn't.
Okay, here's the top of the pop-up spring, and there's a bolt down in there that you can kind of adjust them up and down a little bit. The hinges were what they called a double link hinge. They were marked right and left. You can see the R and the L on them. There's a set of hinges. You can see the L and the R on these real easy. Right in here is an L and an R on the other side. They had a piece on the front that so it wouldn't let the hood go down too far. They were attached with Phillips head screws.
Mike, again on those were made out of resin for your 53s, 4s, and 55s. A lot of people will use the 56, 57s, which were made out of rubber, which is not correct for the 53s, 4s, and 5s. The correct ones are made out of, originally made out of resin. Sometimes they will have blackout on them, sometimes they will not.
Okay, the hood support in 53 was attached with Phillips head screws. And here you see in this one, you can install the hood support upside down. The catches mounted on the firewall. The passenger side had an extension sticking off to the side. They were a wedge type, friction type holder where the pin went down in them and wedged against them. There's a set of catches. The pins mounted on the hood. Early 53s had no blackout on them. The pins were smooth. There should be no notches or grooves or anything on the pin. It just the piece wedged against it down in the catch. And the spring on there kind of pushed it up once the release was made to get it up out of the catch. Sorry about that. Here's a picture of the hinge area. You can see this is an original 54. You can kind of see the pieces on the front were not blacked out or painted on this one. You can kind of see the matting a little bit here. of an original hood, how it was kind of put together. You add anything on that, Chris?
I'm going to add a little bit to that. So a lot of your early 53s, the parts are cloth. So if you look into that just above the hood area, where it's bolted, you can actually see the cloth showing through the panels. Those panels continued into 54. And sometimes there'll be doors, hoods, rockers, firewalls, including the tub. So those parts, as where they were stockpiled, they were just used as those cars were built.
There's the later 54 with the pads made right into the reinforcement area. 54, the hood support was put on with hex head bolts. 55, the hood changed. They did away with the X brace underneath and went to a just a straight cross brace on them.
So why did they go to the X brace versus the cross brace? Does anybody know? Because of the carburetor. Yep. So Chris Enstrom's got it right. So shift to the V8, the carburetor sat right dead center and would interfere with the X in the 53 and 54 cross brace. Good job, Chris Enstrom.
There's a close-up of the molded in pad. '56, '57 hoods were pretty much the diameter or the outside was the same dimensions. They just had raised areas in front of the passenger and the driver running down the full length of the hood.
So Mike, just a little bit, that was a kind of a trick into the 50s and 60s for customization for your 53s, 4s, and 5s, was to put on a 56, 57 hood. So they aren't interchangeable. So a lot of times you'll see 53s, 4s, and 5s with 56, 57 hoods on
them. Bottom side, basically the same as the 55s, except for the raised parts. Later C1. Is there any questions or anything on the 53s through 57s? Because Chris can answer them for you if you've got them. Anybody that don't know,
so
it's
Marvin,
Chris Sherman that's helping me here.
So Marvin asks a guy that has a question: does a 55 with a 6-cylinder have the cross brace hood? And the answer would be no. So they changed that hood into 55.
Okay.
It's a good question.
Any other questions? Okay, I found this picture, I think, on the discussion board, and I thought it was a really good to show the differences in the hoods down through the years. And I'm sure there's some overlap other than the 58s. I'm sure like 59, 60s, and 61, 62, there was some overlap in the changeover part. 58 hoods had the washboard on the top. Weather stripping stopped at the corners. Early 58s had the hood support on the right side. They had an issue with the generator belt and the lower radiator hose, and they had to do some modifications to that. And when they did, they moved the generator, and they felt that it would be interference with the hood support, so they moved it to the driver's side sometime around February. The hinges are a little different. The rest of the C1 era, you can see it's got a logo and they are marked right and left. There's just a picture of the hinges themselves. The catches were changed in 58. Early 58s had a short arm. You can kind of see the difference in the length there. The short arms pulled too hard, and they was having issues with them keeping the wires in them to release them, so they lengthened them out to give a little more leverage. This happened around the VIN 4500. There's a top view. You can kind of see the difference a little better there. When they did that, the brackets that holds the release cable coming out had to be extended out. You can see it's real short there, and where they moved it out here. So the whole bracket was changed at the bottom to hold the cable. 58, they started putting grooves around to kind of help hold the hood down. Just made it easier for it to catch. 59, they took the washboard out and made it a smooth hood the way back. Sometime early in 59, they added a seal to try and keep more air going through the radiator and less around. Also in 59, they used most of 59, they used the early, the 58 style latches. Late 59, they went to what they called a guillotine style catch. When they did that, there was the logo on the catch on the newer style ones. There's the guillotine style catch on. The pins were changed to in the guillotine style had kind of a cone shaped head, and when it went down in it snapped back over where that cone was and locked in a lot more secure. '59 hood, the bottom side. Lower hood support bracket was added in 1960. It was underneath the fender and bolted to the radiator support. That went from 60 to 62. Here's a 60 hood. They modified it a little bit for the change in the radiator. See the lower attachment was a clutch head bolt. There's the 60 hood with a different angle on it to clear the radiators. You can see it had kind of a notch. 61, 62, they put a big notch in the middle of the hoods to clear the support on the radiator. There's just a reinforcement that was bonded to the outer skin shell. And they used clutch head screws in the little brass stops from 53 through mid 62. Sometime in 62, they went to a hex head to lock it in. Is there anything else you can add on the rest of the C1 stuff, Chris?
So on those cable clamps, a lot of times if we're judging those, they should be bent over. So if you see the picture to the left, they were cut off and they were bent over to try and help in case the stop ever came loose. So if you're judging those should be kind of bent over at a 90-degree angle.
Is there any questions on the C1 stuff? Okay. Move on to the 63 hoods. They had an indentation.
I can't hear you. No.
They had a second indentation that the cookie sheets went down into. Basically, they were glued in and hooked on with pile nuts on the back side. There you can kind of see the second indentation a lot better.
Hi, Mike. This is Jennifer. I believe someone has their hand raised in the meeting.
Pardon me?
I said someone has their hand raised in the meeting. I don't know if there's a question or not, but
I can't see any questions, so somebody will have to, if you got a question, speak up. Okay, we're going to keep going then.
Mike,
Yeah.
if they want to ask a question, put it in the chat.
I can't hear too good, but yeah, if you got questions, speak up or something here, so because I can't see any hands or anything on my screen.
Hey, Mike, so what I'll do is I've got the chat up side by side with your presentation. I'll monitor the chat for you. If you guys have a question, just throw it in the chat.
Thanks, Chris.
Yes, sir.
Okay. There's the grill that goes down in the second offset on the hoods. They had an issue with one of the studs that hold the grill in there right over top of the radiator neck. And early time, they either put a dent in the top of the radiator neck or cut off the final cure was to cut off that stud. And you can see here that it's missing on that hole right there. The 63 weather stripping stopped at the corners also. There's the hoods. You can see the logo on the side of the hood or the hinge there. In 63, they early cars had no wedges or no provisions for wedges. That was till around bin 6500. Then they put nut plates in from around 6500 to 7300, but they were plugged off. From 7300 to about 14, they had 4 wedges. From 14 to 16 on coupes, they had 2 wedges, and convertibles, they had 2 wedges from 14 to 19. There was no wedges on coupes after 16 and no wedges on convertibles after 19. And this is what I'm talking about on the wedges. They were mounted on the hood. There's a 4 and a 2. And there was a receiver that mounted on the fenders. Late cars usually had the holes plugged. They had provisions for the for the wedges. 64, we done away with the grills that went down in the indentations in the hood. The back side, weather stripping on the 64s were about basically the same as the 63s. They didn't wrap around till 65. There's a difference in the 63 to the 64 hood. You can see the offset was a little less down in the area by the arrows. On the 64, it's a little wider, and also there was a indentation for one of the studs to come down and a hole off to the side for one of the other studs to get fastened. The hood latches in 63, 64, they ran clear across with holes cut for the rivets in the firewall area, and 65 through 67, they notched the corners. 65 small block hood, 327 hood. You can see the weather stripping went around the corners. Bottom side of the hood. 65, we come out with the big blocks. They needed a little more clearance for the carburetors. The air cleaners stuck up a little higher with the high-rise manifolds on the big blocks. So you got a bulge in the toward the middle of the back of the hood. There was hood grills put in the side. They were open. They did leave out hot air. There's a picture of the grills. Close up of the louvers, the openings. 65 big block hood on the bottom side. I got the little arrow with solid down there because in 66 we had holes in there for the emblem that was added. So there is a difference in the 65, 66 hoods. They had shields behind the louvers. They were held on by hex head. You can see some overspray on the hinge area, which was pretty common on these cars because the hinges was on when they were painted and the hood was up just a little. Here's the 66 and the emblem I was talking about added on. This is a small block hood. There's the big block hood. You can see it has the emblem down there also. The emblem location on the hood. And there you can see the holes where the emblem mounted on the small block hood here. You can see they were added into the reinforcement area. There's a picture of the hood hinge with the logo. You can see them down in there, but it's awful tight. 66 big block hoods. They early cars started out with the hood support on the right side like the 65s were. Later on, they moved them to the driver's side. It's done early in the production of the 66s in September of 65 around VIN 3600. The red car was right around VIN 2800. You can see, I don't know how many people have followed that thread on the technical discussion board about these, but early 66, they had some chrome head Phillips screws hold them on rather than the hex head. And that was off of that red car right there. There's the big block hood. You can see the openings for the emblem. You can also see the openings for the grills up there by the bulge. 67 small block hood. The back side of the small block hood also still had the holes for the emblems, but there was no emblems put on the 67. Here's the big block hood. Original stingers were offset toward the driver's side. Weather stripping, you can see how nice they did the glue job. Back side of the 67 big block hood. The big block hoods had the 427 numbers on the side of the raised part of the hood area. They were individual letters, and usually the 7 is a little lower than the other two numbers on original cars.
Hey, Mike, we got Mike, I got a couple questions.
Yeah.
All right, so first one is from Mike, and he says, what is the correct way to close a hood on a C2? So I'm assuming he's asking, do we just drop it from 10 feet, or do we set it down and push it down on either side?
I usually drop them about 6 inches when I try and close them like that. Anybody else got any suggestions? You can set them down and push them down with your hands if you want.
All right, so the next question comes from Scott. It says, is bowing in the hood next to the fender on the right and left side typical factory production? So, Scott, I think you're talking about a C2 hood or a C3 hood, or you didn't define it.
Okay, I'm not quite sure what he's talking about, but all right, I'm gonna go on here a little bit. Maybe yeah, go ahead.
Tom Dingman, that's not typical.
Okay, I'm not sure what he's talking about, but
The hood, the midsection of the hood being higher than the outside fenders, halfway back.
Okay, no, they should be pretty flush with the fenders if that's what he's talking about. So, okay, in '67 when the L88s come out, the air filter was up actually in the hood itself. The ball, actually they used the same hoods. They just had a different reinforcement area underneath them. So, is there any questions on the C2 stuff that we can try and answer?
Mike, it's Tom again.
Yeah.
Are there any late 65s with an emblem on the hood like a 66 had?
Not that I'm aware of.
I heard about one car. The owner told me his dad bought it new and he swore it was that way, but no proof whatsoever.
The only thing I can tell you is the early 66s, from what I have researched and come across, the early 66 hoods was basically a 65 hood, and they had to drill the extra holes in for the 66 emblem. So I would venture to say that the 65s, no, they didn't, because that would have took extra work at the time. And when they redid the hoods, then they added the reinforcement had the holes in them. So that's what I found out. If somebody's got something different, speak up.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, Tom.
Mike, this is Tim Hall. Could you talk about the early A.O. Smith hoods that were on AC cars having the cutout in the side for the hood prop?
No, I didn't. I had a picture of that, Tim, and I forgot to put it in here. You run into so much stuff. I'm sure there's a lot of things I should add into these that I don't, but it just kind of gets to where you start and where you stop, and sometimes you kind of forget to put some stuff in there. But yeah, no, I didn't talk about that. You want to elaborate? Yeah, can't even talk now. You want to talk about it, Tim?
Yeah, the early 66 with air on the small blocks, they switched the hood prop because of the battery switch and the hose routing. So they actually cut a hole in the side of the X bracing and pop riveted a piece of metal in there for the props. I don't know when that ended, but most of the early A.O. Smith AC cars had it.
Yeah, I've got a picture of it somewhere, and I like I said, I forgot to put it in here. I just overlooked it. I'm sorry.
No. I just wanted people to be aware of it very often.
Nope. Thanks, Tim.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
This is Gus Morris. On the 66 big block, was that hood open too? Was it vented, the vents like 65, or were they closed? Okay.
No, it was open. let me go back here. Yeah, there you can see there the openings
Okay.
on both sides of the bulge there. It's just like the 65s. So, okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, we'll move on to the C3s then. Here's 68 small block hood. There's 68 big block hood. You can see they had to raise them up also for the manifolds, the high-rise manifolds and the air cleaner clearance. Early 68s had a 2-bolt hood support. Later ones, they added a 3rd bolt up onto the fender lip up there. There's the hinges. The letters on the big block hoods were individuals, numbers. They had inserts, chrome inserts behind the recessed areas. The L88 hoods had a extra raised spot in the center of the bulge. Sorry about that. The latches, the pins were on the firewall area rather than on the hood area like in the earlier cars. The latches were actually on the hood itself. You can see off to the right down in there, there's a return spring that pulls the little catch back, or the little arm back that releases the catches on the hood. There's the pins that bolt onto the firewall, the driver's side and the passenger side. In 68, they started off with a cable run across, and they used the brass stop, and that's on the right. And you can see they went to a multi-hole flag connection, and they had it didn't have the bend on the end where the cable come through. They just attached with little clevis pins. And if you look at the left one, the opening is bigger than the center and the right, and that is for the different style cone that was used late 69 through 76. And from what I understand, these springs on the bottom should not be there on original cars. They were added to try and help bring the arm back, I guess. Gary Boston, when you out there?
Here, doctor. If it's COVID, ask your doctor today.
Okay, we'll move on here. Here's the two different pins. You can see the smaller cone on the 68, most of 69, and late 69 through 76 had a wider cone at the bottom. I got a better picture of them here in a little bit. But early 68 had a spiral wrap shield around it going across there. They were anchored in 2 spots, the center and toward the right side. Somebody's got their microphone on, and I'm hearing some background noise.
The name is Jerry.
Later in 68, they went to a black shield rather than just the open spiral, and they still had the 2 hood supports, or the 2 anchors across the back of the hood. Here's the early style with the brass brass stops on them, the driver's and passenger side. Then toward the end, they went to a white cable, and you can see it has the multi-hole connector or flag connector on the end where they just put a clevis pin through it. There's a better shot of it. there's a little better shot of the difference in the pins. See, there's quite a bit of difference in them, really. If you got the alarm option, you had this on the firewall that went down against the hood. Or when the hood come down, it pushed it to close the circuit or open the circuit whenever it opened up and set the alarm off. Here's a 69 small block hood with the white cable. You can see how far down the weather stripping went on this particular hood. 69 big block hood. 69 big block hoods. A lot of them had insulation toward the lower part. It wasn't on all cars. There was some used on some small block cars, from what I understand, but there's no rhyme or reason to when they were used or when they were not used, from what I've been told. There's a 69 L88 hood. You can kind of see the extra raised bulge pretty easy on that one. There's the air cleaner actually in the hood there. And there's the insert that went in with the air cleaner and the base of the air cleaner that fit on the motor itself. (1970) the high horse small blocks LT1s had striping on used a big block hood because it had the high rise manifold and they needed the extra clearance for the air cleaner. It was put on with a 4-piece mask, and the points were usually very sharp in 70. You can see a lot of times the lines were 2 different widths. The LT1 decal in 70, most of 70 was silver with black outlines. Here's a 71 small block hood. A 71 LT1 small block hood with the lines. They used a 3-piece mask, and the point is more rounded. The stripes should be equal size. And starting in 70, we went to the 454. They had individual numbers. You can kind of see on some of the LT1s, the corners, the later ones, the corners with the 3-piece mask didn't match up quite as nice as the earlier ones. Late 70 through 72, the LT1 was white with a black outline. They went to just a single support fastening across the back of the hood. 71. 72 striping. It's basically like the 71s. I found this somewhere and thought it kind of showed what they did or how they put them on. The hood supports changed in 72. They went to a shorter length on the hood. The 68 to 71s was somewhere around 15 inches from base up to where they fastened. The 72s was a little over 10 inches up there. You can see the difference in the mounting here. They still had kind of the support bracket back there in early 72 on some of the cars. '72 big block hood. The emblems were still individual. The 73 hood, big block hood, you can see a little difference in the way they were put on there. The small block and the big block hood had a little different raised area. There's a big block hood. 73, they had the cowl induction, which sucked air in by the back vent. It had a solenoid with a trap door in and they had a ducting area to come back up. And you can see there had insulation around the hood, and it was open where it went down to meet up with the air cleaner. They were fastened with 11 steel spring clips on the insulation. There's kind of a bare hood with the ducting area. You can kind of see without the insulation on it. There's the vent door or the flapper door that opened up when under full acceleration will let the air come in back through the cowl. Starting in 73 with the 454s, the numbers were attached to each other. '75 was the last year for the cowl induction hood. Still had the opening like the 73s, 74, 75 was all the same. 75, the L82 was added on the side. Some of the early 76s did not have that on there. Yeah, 76 when they added the L82. Is that right, Rick?
Yeah.
Wasn't 75, it was 76. And the earlier ones, some of them didn't have that on there.
Correct.
Okay. 76 hood. You can see the insulation was no cutout for the air cleaner in 76. They did away with the cowl induction, but they still had the grill at the back of the hood. 77 hood. They changed the hood support. It kind of was bolted up a lot different at the on the hood area. And also in 77, if you got a convenience group package, you got the under hood light, which was added in there. They changed the latches for 77, went to a U-shaped rod coming down off the hood and a catch on the firewall. The 77, 78 had the spring with a smooth style rubber bumper to push up the hood when it was released. You can see it there a little better. 77, the insulation was a little different. There wasn't as many fasteners on the hood. And you can see the back part of the hood, the grill was gone and it's filled in solid. 78 silver anniversary had some striping on the side. You see that with the L82 on it. Pace car had the striping also. Insulation was up toward the top part, and very few fasteners, only like 5 or 6, I think there were 6 fasteners on these. '79 versus an '80 hood. You can see they changed the bulge again. '79 hood. Missions label was on the hood itself. '79, the rubber bumper had a crosshatch pattern on it. You can see the 77, 78 versus the 79 through 82. 80, the bottom, you can see where the emissions label was put on the side of the hood, or more down toward the center of the hood. That was the emissions label that was on there. 81, if you got a two-tone car, you got some striping around the top of the hood. Hood bottom, you can see the emission label there on that one also. No insulation on these hoods. Emission label for the 81. 82 collectors had some striping with some little different style striping on them. In 82, we had the Crossfire motors. They had ducting in the hoods to get air back to the air cleaner area. There you can kind of see the ducting. The air intake was up toward the front area, in front of the radiator, brought it back to an opening above the air cleaner. 82 emission label. Is there any questions or any comments or anything anybody wants to add about the C2 hoods or C3 hoods? Sorry.
Yeah, Tom Dingman, what caused the opening? You said it was a ducted hood, the last thing you showed.
Yeah.
What made it go open, or
Acceleration. When the farther you push the accelerator, it would open it up once it needed more air. It's about like the earlier, the 73s through 75s. The more you push the accelerator, when you got toward full acceleration or full throttle, it opened it up to get more air in.
that was just a Crossfire year?
Yeah, just for 82 is the only one on the C3s like that.
So, Mike, you got a couple more questions in the chat. Were the 68 427 numbers offset with the 7 lower than the other two, like in 67?
No, not that I'm aware of. They were lined up a lot better.
Okay. And then we got another question. I'm assuming the cowl induction, was it vacuum operated or electric?
They had an electric solenoid on them, but it was kind of operated through the vacuum to turn it on.
Yep. Okay. I don't have any other questions in the chat.
Okay.
Okay, to ask a question, Mike?
Yeah.
Sorry. Notice this is kind of hood related, but in 70 and 71s, I noticed on the actuator valve on the firewall, the bracket would be cut, and rumor has it that the hood release cable interfered with that. Can anyone verify that or know anything about that they were cut at
That
the
is
back?
correct.
Okay. Yep, I've seen that, but I don't know if it was a wives' tale or not, but thanks for verifying that. Thank you.
All right, we've got another question here. Was the composition of the fiberglass for the C3 hoods the same over the duration of the years? So I'm going to chime in a little bit about the C1 hoods, and then you guys can talk about the C3 hoods. So early on, again, the C1 hood, especially 53, was a cloth hood, and a lot of times you'll even see the reinforcement. So the bottom brace of it will be cloth, especially early cars and into sometimes 54, early 54s. Composition of the C3 hoods, Mike?
I'm thinking they were pretty much all the same. Rick, can you help me? I don't know if Gary Bosselman's on here or not. He was supposed to be.
Gary Young?
I didn't hear what. Yes.
So is the composition of all the C3 hoods the same throughout the duration of the year?
It's Terry, I believe so.
I think you're correct.
I don't know the difference, but
I know at the bottom side they all look the same.
Yep, I agree.
okay. No more questions. We'll go on to the C4 hoods. C4 hoods was made by General Tire and Rubber in Iona, Michigan, and that is the press that made them. And they hoods themselves weighed 57.6 pounds. Here's a 84 hood, and it still had the crossfire motor in it. And you can see it also had ducting on the bottom side to get air back to the air cleaner area. There's a wheel liner for 84, which is a 1 year only wheel liner, and I will show you the difference on that here in a little bit. The ducting was brought in front of the radiator area. You can kind of see the ducting there a lot better on this hood, where it comes in, where it comes out back by the air cleaner area. That kind of explains, shows a little better. The hood supports on the 84s and 85s was a fold over style. All hoods on the early cars had the Bowling Green plaque kind of on the front bottom of the hoods. Here's an 85 hood. Basically, the tops are all the same on the C4s from 84 through 96. Bottom sides have changed quite a bit. 85, you can see the ducting's gone. There's two main hood support reinforcement areas. There's two notches kind of right there in the middle. They were both identical on all of the tune port cars. Here's a 85 wheel liner, and there's the difference between the 84 and the 85 to 87 wheel liners. Also on the 85 through 87, they had some indentations right around the area over the radiators. And this will change back in 88 when they started to do the testing on the ZR1s because there was a different radiator and they needed the clearance. The 84s, 85s, 86, 87s all had gas support struts to kind of help lift the hood because it was so heavy. They were fastened to the hinge area. They were part number and Jillian date coded. There you can kind of see it fastened to the hinge area. The hinges had a kind of an L-shaped bracket on the bottom where it bolted to the framework. The catches up in the firewall had part numbers, Jillian dates, side, and logos on them. There's the hood pin snap down into them that's fastened to the hood. They also had Jillian dates on them. They were also marked right and left. The underhood lights, all C4s had two underhood lights. The 84s and 85s had a fine grain. They were a plastic lens. 86 and later were a more coarse lens, and they were glass. You can see they had numbers, part numbers on them. Hood support 85, 85, and early 86 had the hood support fold over on the passenger side like that. The 84s and most of 85s had part numbers on the hood support, but late 85s and early 86s did not have a part number on the hood support. There's just a picture of the hood support. 86 coupe, under hood area. The convertibles, the jack handle was mounted on the passenger side wheel well area for 86 and 87. There you can see the jack handle was held on by 2 wing nuts. Sometime in early mid 86, they went to a tubular style hood support with a pin that popped out and locked in. You can also see the Bowling Green plaque up on the front lower part of the hood area up there. Hinge area on the 86s, like the 85s. And there's the hood support. You can see the 86, 87 tubular style with the pin sticking out. I'm going the wrong way. Okay, 87 through 91, Callaway was a factory option. And they had openings in the hoods to get to the intercoolers to help cool the turbos and the air coming in to the air intake. There's the bottom side. You can see the openings where the air come out over the intercoolers and underneath the hood. You can see they also had to move the whole underhood support area on the Callaways was a lot different. You can see they had to move the underhood lights also. 88 hood, basically the same as earlier ones on the outside, except for they had holes in the side, lower side, where they put the anniversary emblem on the side of the hoods. Bottom of an 88 hood. The wheel liners, 88 to 96, was different than the earlier ones. You can see the differences here. The back side. '88 to '91, they went to a different hood support, which it kind of offset when it come up. Had the orange piece in the middle. In '88, they went to just a single gas strut to help lift the hood, where in earlier years they had one on both hood hinges. '89, they did away with the gas struts totally. Here's the hinges on the 84 through 87 with the 2 gas struts. You can see the 88 to 94, the provisions were gone off of the where the gas struts went on. The holes were still there, but there was no provisions for the struts to mount onto. Except for 88, they had one. The driver's side had provisions for that strut, or the assist strut. But you can kind of see the lower area how they had an angle where it bolted up to the frame. 88, I told you they changed the area where around the radiator. They made a little different opening or indentation in the hood, basically to accommodate the ZR1s, which was coming out. They changed the radiator style for the ZR1s and the LT1, or you can kind of see the difference there of the recessed area. Again, the catches on the firewall. They also had a hood alignment opening down at the lower edge where a pin went down into it from the hoods. When the LS motors come out, they needed more area, or a larger area on the driver's side of the support. You can kind of see the 2 different indentations there. It required it for the air conditioning and the alternator clearances. '92, if you got a ZR1, you also got a hood emblem on the side, which required some holes to be drilled in. A lot of the hoods, this one here was a '92, had a date inscribed on the hood themselves, with one of them vibrating inscribers, more or less. '93, 40th anniversary hood. You got an emblem on the side. If you got just the plain motor, if you got a ZR1 motor, it had this emblem on it. This plaque was used from '84 through 10/1 of '92. No plaque was used from like 10/2/92 to 2/1 of '93. And then they used a Mobile 1 plaque was put on there. There was 2 different designs. This is the second design here with a wording on it. The wording was changed or was different on the first plaque that was used. Hood support had part number and a jillion date on them. They went to a different style in '92, offset type hood support, which used '92 to '96. There you can see the hood alignment area down lower than the where the latch was. A pin in the hood dropped down in that area when it went down, kind of helped support or keep it from vibrating so much and so forth. There's just a picture of the emblem on the hood itself. '95 pace car hood, bottom side. The latches and the hood pin, basically the same as earlier. Lift, assist, and support, it's all built into one. The hinges changed a little bit in '95. They didn't have the angle coming back on. They just bolted straight on the top. '96 Collector's Edition also had an emblem on the side. '96 Grand Sport hood. And you had an emblem on the side of the Grand Sport hood. And there's another picture of a scribed date on the underside of the hood. You can kind of see the difference in the indentations. They're a lot better on that picture. You can see the wiring running up alongside the supports for the hood lights also there. Okay, is there any questions on the C4 stuff? Okay. No questions, we'll keep moving. C5 hood.
Mike, I have a question.
Yeah.
If I may. The scribing using that scribing pen with a date.
Yeah.
I'm just surprised that Chevrolet or GM would accept that, because the aesthetics of it is kind of ugly when you open up and see that rough scribing. I'm just surprised that it's been, I don't know how many years of that they've done that for that run.
I know they did it from 92 through 96. I don't know if they did it earlier than 92. I haven't seen any earlier than that, but I guess there's somebody out there can chime in.
Hey, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Pat. Yeah, I did a survey on that inscription, and My earliest one was 3/12/86, and they
Okay.
moved them from side to side too.
Okay.
Sometime the early ones were the passenger side. Then they didn't do any from like 89 to 93. And then 96, they moved back to the passenger side. And then the early ones, as you noted, had a full date code. The later ones had a month, date, and a production of the number of hoods per day.
Okay. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
have it from 80. I have it from 86 to at least to 96.
Okay.
And I spoke with the manager who was well aware that at the plant he had it was the molded fiberglass in Ohio.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, we'll move on. C5 hood. There's the hinge area on the C5s. There's the hinges themselves. A 98 pace car. The bottom side of the C5s had some hood insulation with the Corvette logo in it and only a single underhood light. There you can see the part numbers on the hood hinges. There's a good picture of the emblem and the insulation. The insulation is held on with plastic plugs. And there's the catch on the firewall hood or the firewall fender area. The hood adjustment, you can kind of adjust where the hood sets to the fenders. The hood support, date coded part number. The light, you can see it's a fine grain 2003 pace car hood. You can see the graphics on them. And a 2004 commemorative edition, the graphics on them. Pretty much the hoods were all basically the same, had the same insulation and hinges and everything under all the C5s. C6 hood, guess I got that labeled wrong. The C6 hood, bottom, hinges. The supports. The CO6s, the support or the bumper on the right side was put on a bracket above the oil cooler or tank. The emblem in the insulation was a little different. The insulation was held on with plastic, no markings on them. 2007 hood, there was no underhood light. There's just a bare hood. And there's a 2007 pace car. And that's all I've got. I hope everybody got something out of it. Is there any questions on the C5s and C6s?
Questions coming in, Mike. A couple more questions here. So let's see here. Let me go to the top of this. All right. C6, Z06, did they offer a carbon fiber hood?
There was some carbon fiber on a lot of that stuff.
Not mistaken, it's true.
Yeah, I believe all the Z06 hoods were the carbon fiber.
Okay. Is there a special way to close the hoods on the 2004 C5 Z06 with carbon fiber hoods?
I can't answer that one. I mean, I suppose just set it down and push it down with your hands. But I mean, I suppose you could drop them too, but I'm not that familiar with them cars. Somebody else will have to chime in and help.
Chris, on the earlier question about the C6 Z06, those were fiberglass up through the 2011 carbon cars, where they went to a carbon hood on the C6 Z06. But I think Carrie was actually talking about the C5 Z06. And there's been a number of comments in the chat in the Z16 commemorative package for 2004. That was a carbon fiber hood. Diane mentions that the weight dropped by almost a third on the hood. And on how to close those, Bob, I wouldn't worry about it. They're carbon fiber. That's a incredibly strong hood. Just drop it as you normally.
Okay. What other questions do we have?
That it? Any more questions then? If not, I'm done. I hope everybody enjoyed it, and I hope everybody learned a little bit.
No questions, but this was fantastic, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike.
No problem. Thank you for joining us.
Great job, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Nice job, Mike.
This This conference will now be recorded.